can't follow strict lessons. Okay, there's no strict rules that um, can be applied to the markets. You have to bring a sense of understanding the bigger picture, and the only way you can have a sense of understanding the bigger picture is by doing this type of chart work. What we're doing right now, we're examining, we're looking, we're seeing the results of it. We're coming to understandings of the market by using our mind. We're taking the data. Did you guys read the latest report that I submitted, the Arujo report? If you haven't, I think it was a really key report. Let me just bring it up in case you haven't. I would highly recommend that you read it. You read everything, Yas? Good man. You're committed. Not everybody's as committed as you, and those that aren't as committed, it's their loss, really. But a really key article I wrote here about knowledge is not power. People come to the university and they say, "Oh, I watched all the video lessons." Well, so what? You watch the video lessons. That doesn't mean you have any sort of power from that. You just watched. The video lessons are just knowledge, right? Is it for me? Don't want to confuse myself. No, Stephen. Yeah, you asked before whether you should read the reports. You should read the reports. There's multiple sections of the Arujo report. The first page deals with, I write an article speaking about our principles, what we teach, our process, how we're teaching it, what's important for the student to know. So you grow by reading these articles because you get to know us, what we do, what I'm working on, how I'm trying to improve, what I'm requiring from the students. This is my way of communicating with all the students. So I'm assuming everybody's reading it. Okay. This is key here. Okay, because you can apply what is being taught in the Ivy League schools around the world, the type of education that's being taught there. It's very similar, the way of thinking, the way of learning, what we're applying here. Like I mentioned here in this article, when you go to school, they give you a textbook. They say this is history. Read it, and then after we're going to do an exam, and there's going to be multiple choice questions, and it's basically read this textbook, remember it, and then we're going to test your memory on it. And at no point are you really asked to take a look at the data, understand the data on a deeper level, and then figure out if the data makes sense to you, and having deeper discussions of it. So this way of thinking that most of us have been given from our education, they've taught us to just rely on other things and to not rely on ourselves to come up with a better understanding of what it is that we're learning. And so that's why most traders fail, is because they come to the markets with this way of thinking and learning, which relies on, just like you relied on textbooks to give you the answers, and just like you rely on calculators to give you the answers, and just like we rely on cell phones to remember people's phone numbers, we're taking the ability of remembering, taking a look at data and analyzing it. I mean, this is why when you go to a family get-together, and you see your cousin that you haven't seen in 3 years, you start talking politics, and what he spits out is just what you heard on CNN or MSNBC or wherever, the following day. What they're hearing on the news is their opinion. And you ask them, what's your opinion? And they say, oh, well, my opinion is this. And you say, well, that's what they just said on the news. That's the opinion of the news. I'm asking you for your opinion. And the bottom line is they don't have an opinion. They don't have their own opinion, likely, these types of people. And the reason why is because they haven't gathered all the facts about that presidential candidate or whoever it may be that we're discussing, right? They haven't gathered the facts. They haven't dug into the history of these people to see exactly what they've done, and looked at the facts from the sources and not just people's opinions of facts to put their own mind. So who do you think creates an education system like that? If the government wanted to easily be able to be um, voted in, do you think that they would want you? Do you think they would want a population of people who are actually going to dig in and find out exactly what the political party has been up to look to find the facts and to analyze it and see if their interests are aligned with the people of the country? Do you think they want you to do that? The answer is no, they don't want you to do that. What do you think they want you to do? They want you to come home from work, be tired, turn on the TV, and hear the opinion that they want you to have. Period. That's how it works, right? They want you to tune on to the television stations and hear what the reporters have to say and the announcers, and you take on that same opinion. So that way of thinking and applying that way of thinking to life, creates a society of brain dead human beings that don't have their own opinions. They only have the opinions that have been handed to them. And then they hear about trading and they say, oh, I can make money trading. I can go into the markets, put some money in here and there, and I can buy and make money in a couple months. This is amazing. And they bring that same mentality to the markets. Okay? So now, a new trader comes and they see this. They see this. And they're like, oh, okay. And then somebody asks them, so what's your opinion? What do you think? You think you should buy or sell? What did they do? They turn on the news. Well, I don't know. We're dealing with the euro Canadian dollar, right? Or let's say it's gold. Let's say it's a gold chart. What do we do? Well, they don't have an opinion. So they look on the news to see what the opinions are of these so-called experts. What are they saying about gold? Well, what's going to happen with oil? What are they saying about oil? Well, they're saying that there might be a war in the Middle East. Isn't that going to drive price up, or maybe it's going to drive price down? I don't know. Let's see what the experts say. Let me read the Financial Times. Let's see what the experts are saying about. Okay? So they're doing exactly the exact same thing they do in their everyday life. They don't have an opinion. They're not collecting data. They're not reviewing past information and seeing what's happened in the past to see if it's happening in the future. They're not seeing if there's any patterns that history is following. They're not seeing if there's any patterns if that price is following. They're not reading deep into the data. So what are we doing here? Are we just assuming that, a trend line is going to be respected because there's a trend line there, and we read a book saying that every time price comes to a trend line, it's going to be respected, and then we're going to just buy blindly every time it hits it? No. Are we going to rely on indicators that we hope are going to do the right job for us and make us money? No. Have we done that before? Yes. Why? Because we fell into the same traps. The exact same traps. Okay? So what I was discussing here in the latest journal here was how what we're doing here is retraining you to think differently. Okay? We're retraining students on how to think differently, because the one biggest thing that influenced my trading was not relying on indicators, not relying on rules, not relying on the news, not relying on fundamentals. Okay? It was all about trying to figure out the why of everything. All right? Why did it do that? Why did it respond from there? Why did it break that trend line? How did it break that trend line? Why did it do it like that? Why are those tall wicks there? Who taught me about emotional candles? Nobody did. How do you think I figured out what emotional candles were and why they are the way they are? You think it's because I saw a couple of them and I just assumed, oh, that's a funny looking candle. Let's just assume it's just a funny looking candle and leave it at that? No. Would I have learned anything if I would have just assumed that it was nothing but just an extra big candle? No, I wouldn't have learned anything. So it was about spending time analyzing, looking at the data, analyzing, getting to the nitty gritty of it, and doing the work that most people don't want to do. I mean, most people don't want to go to work, come home, and then have to look through research papers, okay, and historical books, and read up about a political party, and read into the history of the members of the political party, read into the real history of the world and wars, Okay? People don't have the time for that. That's why we're so busy working. That's why minimum wage is what it is. That's why the world works the way it works, is to keep you busy on stuff that you need to do just to survive, so that you don't spend the time doing the work that you would be doing if you really want to be successful in whatever you were doing work on. So apply that logic, that way of thinking and learning to trading, and this is where you get your results. That's why systems don't work. You see? That's why systems don't work, because again, systems are taking the responsibility of you figuring out what's taking place and putting it on the system. It's like you giving up, saying, well, I'm not smart enough to figure out what's going on, so I'm just going to trade based off of a system. Okay, well, trade based off of a system and see where that gets you. You know, like my friend who trades fractals, he nearly blew up his account. I don't know what condition the account is in now, but he practically blew up his account by shorting gold at the wrong time. Why? Because he's following a system. You know, what's the difference between shorting at the highs and getting out at the lows, and shorting at the highs and shorting more at the lows and then losing your money? The difference is one person knows how the market works, the other person doesn't. Period. Okay? That's what it comes down to. So, and I'm not saying this because I want to toot my own horn and say, look at me, I'm so special, because that's not what this is about. I'm trying to make, you understand the difference between putting in the time and the effort to discover the truths about the market and not doing that. There's a big difference. So again, it comes back to knowledge. You come to the school and you see the video lessons, and what you're getting is knowledge. You're getting to know something that you didn't know. Okay? Now you're being told something you didn't know. Now, it's not power, though. Having that knowledge doesn't mean you're going to be a powerful trader or even be able to make money in trading. You're not going to. Okay? It's only the potential to do something. Now you have to apply that knowledge like what you're doing now, and the classroom session that we did yesterday, and the homework that I'm giving out. Now you have to apply what you're learning from those lessons, and hopefully what you're journaling in your journals, so that the information is locked into your brain. You're taking that information, locking it into your brain by writing it into your journal, and now you're doing your homework. Now you're applying that knowledge to give you power. Okay, so that you're capable of finding the zones, finding the trend lines, which is extremely powerful. You see the power in finding the zones. You see the power in doing the correct analysis. It is the key that unlocks the mystery of the markets. Okay, but that doesn't give you the ultimate goal. Understanding why and when to apply that knowledge is wisdom. Okay, this is what you want to achieve in trading, is wisdom. It's the knowing when to get out of your gold short and why you should get out. Okay, because if you don't do the chart analysis and understand how the market truly works and the forces that come into play, if you don't understand how this works, then you're not going to understand when is the good time to get into a trade and when is the time to get out, and why you're getting in at those levels and why you're getting out. Those are the two things that gives you wisdom. And in my opinion, there's very, very, very few traders I've ever come across or spoken with that I truly believe have wisdom when it comes to the markets. Okay, there's some geniuses that trade the financial markets, and they're primarily the stocks, buying based on company fundamentals and so forth, and they're geniuses. They have wisdom, those that have been in the business for years, that are consistently making money, and they're consistently profitable for their investors. They have wisdom. They know the market. They know how it works. They know why they're getting in. They understand when how to get in, when how to get out. But when it comes to trading the Forex markets, I have not come across many people I would say have wisdom. In fact, off the top of my head, I can't think of one person who I would say has great wisdom of the markets. I'm sure there's people out there that, you know, make it work for them. I personally haven't seen it. I've seen people do well for many years and then blow up accounts. That's what I see. I see that over and over and over again. So anyways, read these articles because they're extremely important. And if you're only going to read the first page, that's great. Because the first page we get into, like I was saying, we get into what the school's up to, what we're up to, what we're learning, what I'm trying to communicate to you. And then we do a section about the markets. So if you want to stay on top of overall a view of the markets, what's taking place on the grand scheme of things, this section is important to read. Okay, so very key. So that's what we're doing here. That's what this chart work is all about. It's getting to understand the markets and what's truly taking place in the markets.